For 40 years, the Specialized Allez has been a safe choice for road riders, providing decent value for money, good performance and inoffensive looks. And for experienced riders, it has been a really trusty winter steed. But for 2023, there is a big change. Specialized has moved wholesale to disc brakes. With that, plus space for 35mm tyres, mounts for racks and guards, Specialized is, well, rightly saying that this provides more performance and better versatility than ever before. So is this still the safe choice that it once was? Let's find out. I'll start with 5 things you need to know about this bike. Unsurprisingly, for a bike in 2023, Specialized has moved the Allez over to disc brakes full time. Prices now start at £1,200 or dollars, but this Tiagra equipped sport model is £1,600 or $1,800. The bike gets space for 35mm tyres, top notch. The geometry is quite relaxed, think more road endurance bike than road racer. And finally, the bike is winter and commute ready with eyelets for mudguards and a rack. Exhilarating facts for you there, but I bet you want to know how it rides. Well, before I get to that, be a love and remember to like this video, subscribe to see more, and then remember to hit the bell icon, because then you'll get to see our videos before anyone else. Specialized launched the original steel Allez in 1981. There's been an alloy road bike in the range for 29 years. That's as long as I've been alive. And rim brakes have been a feature of those bikes for the entirety. Unsurprisingly, Specialized is moving wholesale to disc brakes with the new model. Now, I've got no problem with this in principle. Disc brakes are really good at slowing you down in all different weather conditions. They allow you to fit wider tyres and they don't actually add that much weight. Unfortunately though, dropping rim brakes from a range often leaves riders without a lower priced option. Now, back in 2017, you could get an Allez E5 for 500 quid, albeit quite a low spec one. 6 years of inflation, soaring costs in the bike industry, but also tech such as disc brakes means that the lowest priced Allez now is £1,200. Even the outgoing Allez range had a sub £1,000 option, and it is a real shame to see it go, but it is reflective of wider industry trends. A big advantage of the switch to disc brakes is the space for wider tyres. While the old Allez E5 came with space for a 28mm, you can now fit whopping 35mm tyres, or 32s with mudguards. This clearance, rather than any clever carbon layup or alloy tube shaping, will most affect the comfort of a road bike, and that clearance even opens up the bike to some gravel duties. A real highlight of the 2023 Allez Sport is the frame. At a claimed 1,350 grams, it's reasonably light, especially considering the price. Specialized has used butted and double butted E5 alloy tubing, with the frame being treated to the same finite element analysis, well, as they give their carbon versions. This, Specialized claims, ensures it offers the light and lively ride that riders demand with the durability that the Allez is famous for. I have to say that the frame finish is actually rather good. The rather chunky welds are, uniform, and the paint really does pop in the light. That said though, I did find 1 or 2 spots where the paint had flaked off around the mudguard stays. That's not ideal, but then my Kinesis, which is 200 grams heavier, also has the same problem. Let's talk about weight for a moment. The Trek Emonda ALR is 1,257 grams. That's not a lot less considering that frame set alone costs £1,300. Once you add in the Allez full carbon fork, you've got a bike that is really worth upgrading in the future. And then if you want to commute by bike, then mounts for mudguards and a rack for carrying pannier bags are, in my opinion anyway, essential. Thankfully, the Allez continues to offer dedicated mounts for both. Good stuff. Now, you wouldn't usually find me going deep into the geometry charts for a bike. That can get quite boring, but I think it's really important here. Getting the geometry right on a bike like the Allez is a really tricky balance. You need something fun enough to excite experienced riders while having enough stability and comfort to not overwhelm new riders early on. I think that Specialized has got the balance really spot on here. The Allez Sport feels very planted when cornering, and I was happy to dive for a late apex on a long left-hander. Pitting it against the Specialized Tarmac SL7 might seem unfair, but it shows how the Allez offers a more accessible position for the majority of new riders than a bike built for the World Tour pros. In a size 52 centimetre, the Allez gets a stack figure of 552mm, which is 35mm taller than the SL7. The head tube angle is slacker at 71 degrees to the SL7's 72.5 degree figure, and the reach is shorter at 364mm to the SL7's 383mm figure. This slows down the handling and puts you in a slightly more relaxed riding position. As a result, I felt as though I was sitting back into the bike more than I would on a typical race bike. For first-time road riders, or just ticking off long winter miles, or just getting through the daily commute, the relaxed riding position is absolutely ideal. But look elsewhere, and there are signs of what leads to a composed yet fun ride. A wheelbase figure of 995mm makes the Allez 20mm longer than the SL7. But the Allez front centre of 583mm isn't vastly different to the SL7's 577mm. This results in a ride that is stable at speed, yet still allows for direct handling when you want it. In fact, the Allez Sport closely resembles an endurance bike such as the Specialized Roubaix or the Cannondale Synapse AL. The Synapse has a slightly shorter stack of 550mm and a longer 376mm reach. The wheelbase is also longer on that bike at 1006mm, which is mostly down to a longer front centre of 602mm. But the Synapse is limited to 32mm tyres, which are no match for the Allez 35mm. All right, I've made you wait long enough. Let's move on to the ride impressions. Throughout my testing of the Allez, I've made sure to ride a mixture of rolling to hilly terrain with plenty of commutes thrown in. And to be honest, throughout the test, the Allez really has delivered. It's really impressed me. The geometry creates a bike that is really stable at speed, but is also reactive when you need it to flick through a corner. There's plenty of stiffness in the frame too, but it doesn't really translate into a harsh ride. With 30mm tyres fitted, I found that there was plenty of comfort to be had, and I didn't really find much buzz coming through the handlebars or the saddle. The compact drop actually really allowed me to tuck down for an efficient riding position, though with the tall head tube I did struggle to replicate the position on my Specialized Athos. With a weight that's bang on 10 kilos without the mudguards and rack but with pedals, this might not sound like the best climbing bike, but with decent frame stiffness and composure it actually climbs really well, especially on faster climbs. I was just able to sit down and tap out a rhythm. Given that this is a sporty bike, I naturally got lured into racing some of my mates. Now they're much better sprinters than I am, but the Allez really did hold its own. Generally, the Allez felt taut and efficient, but there is one downside, one low light that I want to touch on. That is the wheels and tyres. This is a tricky criticism to level at a bike designed to meet a relatively low price point, especially when many similar bikes suffer from the same issue. However, there's no ignoring the fact that the stock wheel and tyre combination, well, does hold the Allez Sport back a bit. This is the Axis Sport disc wheel set with their 24 spokes at the front and 28 at the rear, plus solidly built hubs and alloy rims. They're a bit hefty. Add in the budget Specialized Road Sport tyres and a heavier Sun Race cassette, and that is a real chunk of weight. This, well, it all comes to nearly 4 kilos. The tyres offer decent grip in mixed conditions, and they have stood up well to harsh and debris-strewn inner city Bristol roads, so they score well in that respect. But the stiff casings felt rather dead to me. I struggled to gain cornering confidence when really pushing descents, and when riding on nicer roads, I didn't really get a sense that the road surface had improved. While the wheel set is actually tubeless ready, the tyres aren't, which does mean that you would have to upgrade if you wanted that performance. But if you just want a reliable bike for commuting and don't care too much about performance, then the stock wheels and tyres are absolutely fine. But for my racier tastes, they dull the ride just too much and let the excellent frame set down. Now, I adore Shimano's 10-speed Tiagra group set. It's everything a mechanical group set should be, and the hydraulic disc brakes are brilliant. I was thoroughly impressed by the slick shifting on offer, and at no point was the chain kind of chattering along and failing to find the sprocket that I'd asked for. The Tiagra hydraulic disc brakes were very good too. Shimano's hood ergonomics are excellent, while reach adjustment is available for those with smaller hands, and the shifter paddles were also easy to use while wearing winter gloves. I did miss the servo wave tech that you get on the higher end Shimano stuff, which really just improves brake feel from the hoods, but there was still plenty of power and sufficient modulation too. As previously noted, Specialized has saved some money with a cassette from Sunrace, but the 11 to 32 tooth range works well with the 50 to 34 tooth combination at the front on the Praxis Works Alba cranks. KMC provides the chain, and the group set works quietly, allowing you to get on and enjoy your bike ride. The finishing kit is all Specialized's own stuff. It's solid, but nothing to really write home about. The nice thing though is that Specialized is using all of the small parts from the old Allez or other Specialized models. That should make finding spares a lot easier. They're also using a BSA threaded bottom bracket, along with a standard 27.2mm seat post and standard stem. That will make future upgrades really easy. I will, however, say that while the rack was really good, I wouldn't be investing in the mud guards that came on this bike. I found getting the guards lined up straight just took a lot of trial and error and just weren't as good as my Kinesis fend-off guards. Once installed, they were fine, but I would have liked a bit more coverage, especially on the front guard to protect my feet from road spray on wet days. I have to say that if I had to choose between this and my Kinesis 4-season disc, it would be hard to look past the additional 5mm tyre clearance and slightly lower weight that you get with the Allez. That said, with the Allez straying closer to endurance bike territory these days, I'd also have to consider the Cannondale Synapse at £1,650 or $1,800. It features quality DT Swiss wheels, additional mounting points on the frame, and even comes with a top tube bag included. For me, however, the Allez simply ticks almost all of the right boxes. While I am personally sad to see the rim brake version gone, the Allez Sport is still an easy choice for an entry-level road bike, an efficient commuter, or an all-weather training machine. But do you think that Specialized was right to ditch rim brakes on the Allez? Let me know down in the comments. If you want us to do more bike review videos, then leave a like on this video. Subscribe to see more from us, and why not check out this excellent video.